So getting started, we've kind of covered most of this, I think, but there's no one method, right? Learn and adapt ideas from others. Do what makes sense for you and your community and your goals. Achieving a win on one issue may be used completely different tactics than another issue, right? Sometimes the electoralism plays a role. For some issues, it's all about community power, right? So we have organizing has to be a very, very fluid thing, where we can pick and grab different tactics, and that's what's coming. Uh, Very few resources, we talked about this, are related to independent organizing. Most are oriented towards not-for-profits and advocacy groups, and that means a lot of the tactics that we get, we're going to have to tweak a little, right? We're going to have to adjust how things are happening, but that doesn't mean that we throw the whole thing out, right? We just need to adjust a little. We just talked about this, right? Good organizing is built first and foremost on trust and real relationships. Working class people rightfully don't trust politicians. Actions, not words, are what matter. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed and pulled too many ways. It's okay, and it's preferable to start with one thing or two. Um, and then make sure you do the prep work and planning. If you're always shooting from the hip, you're never going to be effective. And I think those last two kind of go hand in hand, right? If you're trying to do too much, Greens are often pulled into things, especially running for office, because they feel they have to. They feel that if they don't, no one else will. But they don't have the foundation built to actually have a successful run, right? A common question is, who's going to be the first Green congressperson? And it's not a who, it's a where. It's what location, what congressional district can put together a strong base and a strong group of networks and connections with community leaders and other organizations that they can actually raise the money, compete, and win a congressional race. Sure, a charismatic candidate with connections into the community will be great, but for a congressional level, will help a lot. But for a congressional level race, you have to have the infrastructure. So you've got to make sure you do that initial planning. You've got to make sure that you're not overextending yourself. And I would also highly recommend that you start with something that's achievable and you escalate and you work your way forward. Don't start with this massive, because we live in a system, in a society that is completely decimated by capitalism, right? The problems that need to be solved are massive. Zygmunt Bauman called it negative globalization, right? We can't let these systemic problems be pushed off to individual solutions. It's just that it's gotten so huge, the scope of the things. Even if we just pick one issue like climate, like the amount of things that need to be done is just beyond real comprehension almost. So it's really easy to see that and feel that you don't have a solution, and that you get dejected and overworked and burn out and be done, right? So you definitely make sure you're looking at things in your community that you can actually have an impact, right? You get a few wins and all of a sudden people are showing up. You keep bringing people into losing battles and eventually they get dejected. So we've got to make sure this is where smarter, not harder comes in, right? If you don't have the energy to work on 10 fronts, you've got to be really smart about the one you choose to work on. So.
Yeah, I agree. That was the part I wanted to emphasize, that when we say it's okay to start with one or two things, it doesn't mean that we ignore all the other issues, especially in light of what we talked about with Green Party 101 and Eco-Socialism 101. Many of these issues are intersectional and they're all intertwined with each other. So, we're not putting things off. We're not saying don't handle those things. But what we're recognizing is this kind of snowballing effect. You start with a small snowball and it rolls downhill and it gathers more snow as it goes, or the rolling stone, whatever the analogy is, but you know what I mean. It's important to start with something smaller. If you're starting with a new group, that is, right? If you're a relatively new organizing effort in your community, you don't have much infrastructure or people yet, you're just getting started, pick one or two issues that are smaller but are important and can make some difference in your community. And as you get those wins, more people are going to come in and you're going to have more resources more people. Those people are going to have different backgrounds and experience and all, to where you could potentially tackle more projects in the future. So, don't feel bad that you're starting with one small issue, because that is literally how it starts, and then you build from there.